You lose yourself every time you try to please everyone. That's the truth no one warns you about. Not because they're protecting you, but because your compliance benefits them. People love the version of you that bends, the version that softens, the version that shrinks to keep the peace. And you've been paying that price quietly for years. You just never admitted it. Look at your life honestly. Every time you said yes when you meant no, you tore a small piece out of yourself. Every time you swallowed your opinion to avoid upsetting someone, you weakened your voice. Every time you lowered your ambition to avoid being judged, you betrayed your own potential. The cost of pleasing everyone is not effort, it's identity. And you know this feeling. That tightness in your chest when you choose what they want instead of what you truly want. That quiet frustration when you pretend you're fine just so someone else doesn't feel uncomfortable. That silent resentment that forms when you shrink yourself to fit someone else's expectations. This isn't kindness. This is self-erasure. Think back to when it started. You were young, too young to see the trap. You learned that being agreeable earned approval, affection, safety, so you shaped yourself around comfort, but not your own. You thought it made you a good person, but all it did was make you invisible to yourself. That invisibility still follows you. You remember the moment clearly. The memory is sharp, heavy, unmoving. You stood in a room full of louder voices. You had something to say, something real, but the fear of disappointing them pushed the words back down your throat. You felt the collapse inside your chest, a quiet moment of self-betrayal, a moment you've repeated many times since. And here is the dangerous truth. Pleasing everyone never ends. Because once people learn you will bend, they expect you to bend again, and again, and again, until bending becomes your identity and standing straight feels unnatural. You become a shape carved by others, not forged by your own hands. A man who tries to please everyone slowly disappears, piece by piece. A fragment here for his friends, a fragment there for his family, a fragment saved for strangers until nothing solid remains for himself. He becomes a silhouette, present, but hollow, visible, but not alive. A man wearing masks instead of a face. But listen carefully. There is something inside you that refuses to die. A quiet anger, a quiet hunger, a quiet truth that wants to awaken. You feel it every time you choose silence over honesty and regret it instantly. You feel it every time you agree with something that isn't aligned with you. You feel it every time you say yes, when everything inside you screams no. That voice is the real you, buried under years of bending and pleasing, and he is done hiding. He is ready to return. You felt it in chapter 1, the moment a man starts disappearing under the weight of pleasing everyone. But here is where the truth gets darker. You don't just disappear. You collapse. Quietly, slowly, internally. Long before anyone notices. Long before you even admit it to yourself. A man doesn't break all at once. He breaks in layers. In moments so small he convinces himself they don't matter. But they do. They always do. Because every small collapse invites a bigger one. Every moment of pleasing someone else at the expense of yourself teaches you to live without a spine, to exist without a center, to move without direction. You collapse the first time you bury your anger just to avoid being judged. You collapse the first time you stay silent just to avoid conflict. You collapse the first time you watch someone cross your boundary and you let it happen because you don't want them to think you're difficult. This is how strong men become weak quietly. Not through failure, but through compliance. And the world rewards this collapse. They call you easygoing. They call you understanding. They call you a good guy. They celebrate your softness because it makes their life easier. But what about your life? What about your truth? What about the man you're supposed to become? No one celebrates hardness in you until you prove why it's necessary. No one respects boundaries you do not enforce. Listen carefully. A man who lives for approval will always collapse under pressure because his strength is borrowed, because his identity depends on the temperature of other people's emotions, because his confidence is built on a foundation he doesn't own. You can't build a warrior on borrowed strength. You can't build a life on unstable ground. There is a moment, and every man who bends long enough knows this moment, when the collapse becomes undeniable. When you look at yourself and see the truth, you don't recognize the man in the mirror. You see his face. You speak with his voice. But the fire behind the eyes is gone, replaced by exhaustion, resentment, quiet bitterness, the symptoms of a man who traded authenticity for acceptance. And then comes the dangerous part. Your collapse becomes normal to you. You get used to it. You get used to shrinking. You get used to silence. You get used to betraying yourself. You begin to confuse weakness with peace. You begin to call avoidance maturity. You begin to call self-erasure kindness. This is how a man forgets who he truly is. But deep inside you, there is a rebellion. A part of you that refuses to die. A part of you that is sick of collapsing quietly. A part of you that is tired of living a life shaped by fear. This rebellion is not loud. It is not dramatic. It is not violent. It is a whisper, but it is powerful. It is the whisper that says, "I cannot keep living like this." And once that whisper appears, your collapse becomes impossible to ignore. You start noticing the moments you give yourself away. You start recognizing the patterns you used to overlook. You start feeling the weight of every time you said yes when you knew you should have said no. Awareness hurts, but awareness is the first strike against collapse. Here is the truth. Your internal breaking is not a sign that you are weak. It is a sign that your life has been built on foundations that do not belong to you. You're not breaking because you can't handle pressure. You're breaking because you've never learned to stand for yourself. You've learned to stand for others, to protect their comfort, to guard their feelings. But who guards yours? Who protects your truth? Who defends your integrity? No one, except you. The collapse intensifies when you realize something painful. You've been performing your entire life, performing roles that were never meant for you, performing emotions to keep others calm, performing stories to keep yourself small, performing approval to avoid disapproval. A man cannot live as a performer and expect to feel whole. Performance kills authenticity. Authenticity kills collapse. You must choose one, but this chapter is not about punishing yourself. It is about seeing the collapse clearly so you can stop it. Because no man can rise while he's still breaking inside. No man can stand tall while he keeps bending for the world. You cannot build power on fractured ground. You cannot build identity on the need to be liked. You must rebuild the foundation from the inside out. And that rebuilding begins when you face the truth without flinching. Pleasing everyone is the first stage of destroying yourself. Stopping that collapse is the first stage of becoming yourself. In Chapter 3, you will confront the root truth, the real reason you got stuck in this pattern and how to break it permanently. You saw the collapse in Chapter 2, but collapse is only the surface. There is always a deeper truth beneath it, a root that feeds the weakness, a belief that traps you, a silent agreement you made with yourself long before you knew the cost. That root truth is why you're stuck in the cycle of pleasing everyone but yourself. The truth is simple. You don't please people because you're kind. You please people because you're afraid. Afraid of conflict. Afraid of being disliked. Afraid of being misunderstood. Afraid that if you show your real self, they might walk away. So you give them the version of you that feels safest. The version that demands nothing. The version that stays small. At the center of people-pleasing is a wound created long before adulthood. A wound shaped by childhood moments where you learned that being yourself led to punishment, disapproval, or withdrawal of love. So you replaced authenticity with performance. It protected you then, but destroys you now. Think back to your earliest memories. There was a moment, small but defining, when you learned that your voice didn't matter as much as someone else's. Maybe you spoke up and were shut down. Maybe you expressed anger and were punished. Maybe you expressed sadness and were ignored. Maybe you asked for what you needed and were told it was too much. And a young version of you absorbed that lesson deeply. Being yourself is dangerous. To survive, you became adaptable. You learned to read emotions before people even spoke. You learned to soften your tone, shrink your needs, adjust your behavior to match what others wanted. This made you valuable to them, but invisible to yourself. This is the root truth. You became an expert at protecting everyone except you, and the world rewarded this. When you made yourself small, they called you respectful. When you silenced your emotions, they called you mature. When you carried everyone's weight, they called you strong. But none of that was real strength. It was survival. And survival is not the same as life. Here is the emotional pin you've been avoiding. You don't please people because you want them to be comfortable. You please people because you fear they won't love you if you stop. This is the chain around your neck, the chain you forged without even knowing it. Fear, not compassion, is what keeps you obedient. But fear has a deeper layer. You fear disappointing yourself. Because if you stop pleasing others, you will have to face the truth about who you are and who you've avoided becoming. People-pleasing keeps you distracted from yourself. It gives you an excuse to avoid standards, avoid ambition, avoid responsibility. If you're busy serving everyone, you never have to confront your own potential. The root truth hurts, but it frees you. You have built your identity around other people's reactions, your emotions around their approval, your decisions around their expectations, your self-worth around their comfort. You shaped your life to avoid upsetting anyone, except yourself. And that is why you're stuck. Because you've never lived your own life. You've lived theirs. People-pleasing is not generosity. It is self-abandonment. It is a man choosing to disappear a little every day. It is a slow erosion of identity, integrity, and courage. No man can pursue greatness while constantly seeking permission. And no man can respect himself while constantly rejecting himself to earn the respect of others. But understanding the root truth is the beginning of breaking it, because once you see the pattern, you cannot unsee it. You start noticing every time you soften your voice, every time you lower your standards, every time you betray yourself under the disguise of keeping the peace. Awareness is painful, but it is the beginning of choice. And choice is the beginning of power. This chapter does not end with punishment or regret. It ends with clarity. Clarity that the cycle was never your fault, but ending it is your responsibility. You are not stuck because you lack strength. You are stuck because you've been using your strength on the wrong mission, protecting the world instead of protecting yourself. In Chapter 4, you will learn the principles that break this cycle permanently. And those principles will rebuild the man you were meant to be. Clarity exposes the truth, but clarity alone doesn't rebuild a man. You now know why you collapse, why you shrink, why pleasing everyone feels safer than standing on your own feet. But knowing the root is only the beginning. Breaking the cycle requires a framework, a system strong enough to replace old instincts with new identity. This chapter is that system. A framework built on 3 principles, simple enough to remember, strong enough to transform you if you apply them consistently. Not someday. Not when you feel ready, but the moment your life stops belonging to the world and starts belonging to you. These principles are not theories. They're choices, hard choices, but necessary ones. Principle 1. Speak the truth, even if your voice shakes. People-pleasing survives on silence. It survives on the lies you tell yourself to avoid discomfort. It survives on the version of you that hides what is real, so others can stay comfortable. But a man cannot grow in deception, especially self-deception. You break the cycle the moment you choose truth over approval. Truth is not brutality. Truth is clarity. Truth is alignment. Truth is saying what you really mean instead of what you hope will please them. Will it feel uncomfortable at first? Yes. Will some people resist it? Yes. Will you disappoint someone? Absolutely. But disappointment is temporary. Self-betrayal lasts forever. Here is a story you know well. You had a moment where you disagreed but stayed silent. You felt your chest tighten, your breath shorten, your spine weaken. That discomfort wasn't caused by what they said, but by what you refused to say. Your silence hurt you more than their reaction ever could. Speaking the truth rebuilds your spine, even if your voice shakes, even if your hands tremble, even if the world does not applaud your honesty. Because truth is not for them. It's for you. Say it once, and the collapse weakens. Say it twice, and you feel your strength return. Say it often, and the world learns they cannot shape you anymore. Principle 2. Set boundaries without apology. A boundary is not a wall. It is a measurement of your worth. People-pleasing destroys boundaries because you fear how others will react when you enforce them. But here is the truth. If someone gets angry when you protect your peace, they were benefiting from your lack of it. Boundaries are simple. This is okay. This is not. This is where I stop. This is where you stop. Simple, but not easy. Because enforcing boundaries does not just challenge others, it challenges the weaker version of yourself that wants to avoid discomfort. But discomfort is the birthplace of identity. Think of the moment someone crossed a line with you, and you pretended not to notice. You felt the anger, the disappointment, the shame for letting it happen. That moment didn't break you. Your silence did. Every boundary you fail to defend teaches people they can walk deeper into your life without consequence. When you enforce a boundary, you are not rejecting others. You are choosing yourself. People who respect you will respect your boundaries. People who don't respect you will reveal themselves the moment you create one. This clarity is painful but powerful. Boundaries don't push away the right people. They expose the wrong ones. Principle 3. Choose discomfort over approval. This is the hardest principle, and the one that rebuilds men the fastest. Approval is easy. Approval is addictive. Approval feels good in the moment and hollow afterward. Discomfort does the opposite. It feels heavy at first and powerful afterward. Every time you choose discomfort over approval, you train your mind to stop needing validation. Discomfort is telling the truth when silence would be easier. Discomfort is saying no when you know they expect a yes. Discomfort is choosing rest instead of entertaining someone. Discomfort is choosing standards over acceptance. Discomfort is choosing integrity over convenience. Strong men are not built from comfortable choices. They are built from necessary ones. There's a version of you on the other side of discomfort. A man who stands tall without permission. A man who is no longer shaped by the world's emotions. A man who chooses his path even when the world disagrees. This man is not a fantasy. He is a decision. Your decision. And those 3 principles are the bridge between who you were and who you must become. Understanding principles is powerful. But principles only become transformation when you can see them clearly in the real moments of your life. So in this chapter, we go deep. We look at the places where pleasing others has been quietly draining your strength for years. Not in theory, but in the situations that shape who you are. Let's start with your work. You think you're being a team player. You think you're being helpful. But what's actually happening? You take on responsibilities that aren't yours. You stay late because you don't want anyone to think you're not committed. You say yes to tasks that destroy your schedule and burn your energy just to avoid disappointing someone. The problem isn't work. The problem is that you fear being perceived as less than perfect. So you carry the weight of others until your body collapses under pressure. And here is the brutal truth. People will gladly let you carry that weight as long as you never complain, as long as you never break, as long as you never say stop. Because people-pleasing doesn't just weaken you, it invites others to use you. Not always intentionally, but inevitably. Now look at relationships, romantic, family, friendships. This is where the cost cuts deepest. You avoid conflict, so you create resentment. You stay quiet, so you become invisible. You bend your standards, so you lose respect. First theirs, then your own. A relationship built on pleasing is not love. It's fear wrapped in affection. Think of one moment. You know exactly which one. Where you agreed to something that went against your values. Not because you wanted to, but because you didn't want them to be upset. And afterward, when you were alone, you felt it. The sting of self-betrayal. You didn't lose them that day. You lost a piece of yourself. People-pleasing destroys your friendships too. Why? Because no one can trust a man who doesn't speak his mind. Your friends ask, "What do you want to do?" You answer, "Whatever you guys want." You think you're being easygoing, but you're actually being absent. Absent from your own life. Absent from your own preferences. Absent from the very bond you're trying to protect. People don't connect with a version of you that doesn't exist. And when it comes to family, it becomes even harder. Because the patterns began there. Your habits of shrinking, of apologizing, of trying to keep everyone happy, were born in a place where you didn't have the power to choose differently. But you do now. You're not that child anymore. Though you still obey the rules of a childhood you outgrew long ago. Here is the emotional pin. Pleasing people does not make you loved. It makes you replaceable. Because people don't love the mask you wear. They love the comfort it gives them. And comfort is not love. Comfort can't build a life. Comfort can't build respect. Comfort can't build the man you're meant to be. Let's go deeper. People-pleasing destroys your ambition. You want to grow, but you're afraid growth will upset someone. You want to set a standard, but you're afraid someone will call you selfish. You want to take a risk, but you're afraid people will laugh if you fail. So you stay still. You stagnate. You decay. Not because you lack ability, but because you've built your identity around avoiding disapproval. A man cannot rise while clinging to the approval of others. And then there's the most painful example of all. You water yourself down to fit the room. You shrink your opinions, your dreams, your voice, your intensity, your fire, because someone somewhere might think it's too much. But here's the truth. You were never too much. They were simply too little, and you betrayed your own potential to make them feel comfortable. This is the moment you need to see clearly. Pleasing everyone slowly kills your masculinity. It kills your confidence. It kills your self-trust. It kills your inner fire. Not all at once, but in small, quiet cuts that bleed you over years. 1,000 small moments where you choose safety over truth, approval over integrity, comfort over courage. But here is the turning point. Once you recognize these patterns, you can no longer live inside them. The mind cannot unsee truth. The heart cannot unknow strength. Once you see how deeply this behavior has controlled your life, you cannot go back to shrinking yourself. You must rebuild. You must stand. You must choose yourself, not out of selfishness, but out of necessity. And that rebuilding begins in the next chapter, where theory becomes action, where principles become practice, where identity becomes discipline. In Chapter 6, you will learn how to remove people-pleasing from your life step by step and replace it with strength. the kind of strength that stays. Clarity means nothing without action. Every pattern you've seen so far, every collapse, every root truth, every wound, can only change when you put your hands on the wheel of your life and turn it yourself. No one can break this cycle for you. This chapter shows you how. Understand this. You don't eliminate people-pleasing by force. You eliminate it through practice, through a series of small decisions that realign your spine one choice at a time. Actions, not intentions. Repetition, not motivation. Identity is not something you wait for. It's something you build in the dark, in silence, moment by moment. Step 1. Pause before you react. People-pleasing is automatic, a reflex. Someone asks for something and you say yes before your mind even arrives. Your body agrees before your heart has a chance to speak. Breaking this reflex begins with one simple rule. Pause. Take one breath. Create space. Let your truth catch up to your mouth. Step 2. Say no without explanation. No apologies, no justification, no softening the edges. Just a clean, steady no. You don't owe the world a defense of your boundaries. A man who must explain his no is a man who does not own it. Start small. Say no once a day to something meaningless. Then let that strength spill into the places that matter. Step 3. State what you actually want. People-pleasing makes you agreeable, but it also makes you absent. You've avoided expressing preferences to keep others comfortable. Now you reclaim your voice. Say what you want. Say what you think. Say what you feel, even if it's small, even if it surprises them, especially if it surprises you. A man who cannot articulate desire cannot take ownership of his life. Step 4. Allow people to be disappointed. This is where most men break. They think disappointment means failure. It doesn't. Disappointment means you're no longer betraying yourself to protect someone else's emotions. Let them be upset. Let them misunderstand. Let them adjust to the real you. People who truly value you will adapt. People who don't were never meant to stay. Step 5. Set one boundary and defend it. Just one, not 10, not a list. Pick one line you refuse to allow anyone to cross. Say it clearly. Enforce it calmly. Hold it firmly. A boundary defended once is worth more than 1,000 boundaries spoken, but abandoned. Step 6. Stop over-explaining yourself. Your decisions do not require unnecessary detail to sound legitimate. You don't need paragraphs to justify your choices. Say it clean. Say it steady. Walk away. A man who over-explains reveals that he doesn't believe in his own decision. Believe first, and the world will follow. Step 7. Choose the uncomfortable option on purpose. Discomfort is where your identity grows. Every time you choose the hard path, the honest path, you strengthen the version of yourself that refuses to shrink. Do one uncomfortable thing a day. Speak up. Hold your opinion. Disagree respectfully. Walk away from something unhealthy. Every discomfort is a rep in the gym of identity. Step 8. Check your motives. Before you agree, ask yourself, am I doing this out of truth or out of fear? If it's fear, stop. If it's desire for approval, stop. If it's discomfort avoidance, stop. Act from intention, not insecurity. Strength is built on conscious choices. Step 9. Protect your time like a warrior. Time is the one resource pleasers give away without hesitation. But a man who gives away his time gives away his life. Set hours, set limits, set priorities. The world has trained you to be available for everything except your own growth. Reverse that. Step 10. Stop apologizing for existing. You don't owe anyone an apology for having needs, opinions, boundaries, ambition, or standards. You are not a burden for being yourself. Stop shrinking. Stop softening. Stop walking like you owe the world an explanation for breathing. A man stands. A man speaks. A man chooses. A man becomes. These 10 steps aren't just practices. They're recalibrations of your identity. Every small decision rebuilds the man you were meant to be. Every boundary strengthens your spine. Every honest word restores your fire. In Chapter 7, you will confront the final shift, the silence where you no longer seek approval and finally stand alone. When a man stops pleasing everyone, something shifts inside him. Quietly, slowly, irreversibly. The world doesn't notice at first, but he does. Because for the first time in years, he can hear himself again. His own voice, his own needs, his own standards, his own truth. This is the beginning of the closing silence. This silence is not empty. It is not loneliness. It is not withdrawal. It is clarity. Clarity that cuts through the noise of expectation. Clarity that burns away the impulse to obey. Clarity that reveals the man who has always been there, buried beneath years of bending and shrinking. Clarity is not found in approval. It is found in honesty, in stillness, in self-respect. When you stop chasing approval, your life becomes quieter. People who depended on your compliance grow uncomfortable. They question you. They push back. They test your boundaries. Not because you're wrong, but because they benefited from your silence. Their discomfort is proof that your transformation is working. If your truth makes someone angry, it was never safe to trust them. And here is the strange part. Your world gets smaller, but you get stronger. Fewer people stay, but the right ones emerge. You stop attracting the ones who need you weak. You start attracting the ones who respect your strength. The man who stops pleasing the world finds himself walking alone more often. But he also discovers he is no longer lonely. Silence becomes a companion, not a punishment. There is a moment every man experiences during this transformation. A moment where he faces the fear he has avoided for years. The fear of being disliked. And when he finally stands still in front of that fear, he realizes something profound. Being disliked hurts far less than self-abandonment. The truth is simple. You do not need everyone to like you. You need yourself to respect you. Respect is born from the decisions no one sees, from the boundaries you enforce when no one is watching, from the truth you speak when silence would be easier, from the standards you uphold even when they cost you comfort. You cannot admire a man who betrays himself, and you cannot become a man you admire until you stop betraying yourself. Approval is cheap. Respect is earned. First internally, then externally. This is the shift that creates a new identity, not a louder one, not a harder one, a more honest one. A man who no longer bends to avoid disappointment begins to walk differently. Shoulders steady, eyes calm, decisions clean, actions aligned. He stops looking outward for permission. He stops waiting for validation. He stands inside his own life as its rightful owner. And something else happens. You begin to feel time again. Not as pressure, but as responsibility. You stop wasting hours on people who drain you. You stop negotiating your energy for scraps of approval. You stop sacrificing your fire to warm others who never bring heat of their own. You start giving your time to the man in the mirror, and he finally begins to grow. Then the world tests you one last time. It always does. Someone will push your boundaries. Someone will question your change. Someone will attempt to pull you back into the old version of yourself. But the man who has walked through collapse, through truth, through discomfort, through clarity does not return to the cage he escaped. Not anymore. This is where the silence deepens. Not the silence of fear, the silence of power. The silence of a man who knows he doesn't need to justify his existence. The silence of a man who no longer trades authenticity for acceptance. The silence of a man who lives aligned with himself, even when no one applauds. Look at your life. Look at the path you've walked to reach this moment. All the bending, all the shrinking, all the self-erasure, all the nights you stayed quiet when something inside you begged to speak, all the exhaustion of carrying people who never carried you. And yet, you are still here. You are still rising. You are still capable of rebuilding yourself from the inside out. There is a version of you that no longer hesitates, no longer apologizes for existing, no longer chases what was never meant to be kept. A version of you that walks into silence with certainty. A version of you that chooses identity over approval every time. He is not far away. He is waiting for one decision, your decision, and now this video ends the only way it should, in silence. The silence where approval dies. The silence where identity grows. The silence where you stop bending and begin becoming. Pain is the forge. Walk into it. Rise alone, then walk again.